Hopefully we're sorted. So, yeah, Rick, go ahead.
E ru ana te whenua, heko o te whero, papu te wharatiri, ko ti mumu, ko ti awha, kato ti ho o tawhiri, homi e, hui e, taiki e. Welcome everybody. Look, I just want to welcome especially Chloe. Chloe Marshall, she's there. Oh yeah, Chloe, hi. She's replacing Melinda for NEMA and she will do the NEMA report. So welcome, Chloe. Welcome, everybody. I know this is being recorded and it won't be live streamed, but I do wish to comment if Susan Botting is doing any reporting on this, that she comes to me as chair of the CDEM first, and I will answer any questions or I will pass on any queries. So thank you, Susan. Regarding housekeeping, please mute when you're not speaking. It is difficult, and then put your hand up when you wish to be heard. And if anybody is presenting, we ask that you do it from your own screen. Thank you. So we do have an apology now, Laura. So we have an apology from Mayor Smith. So I will ask for any other apologies. No other apologies. So can I have a mover for those apologies, please? Dave, and a seconder, Anna. Thank you. All those in favour? Anybody against? Carried. Thank you. We will go now to item 3, declarations of conflicts of interest. If we take those as we go, that would be great. Thank you. So I'm now moving on to item 4.1 on page 3, the confirmation of minutes. So can I have a mover that those are true and correct, please? So that is pages 3 through 8. I won't go through each page. Do I have
also move?
Thank you. And a seconder, Anna as a seconder. Thank you. So before we close those off, are there any discussions on those minutes? No hands? Anybody against receiving those minutes? Thank you. I'm now moving on to item 4.2 on page 8, schedule of actions. Can I have a mover that we accept those, please? That's Mia Mai has moved that. A seconder, please. I will second those. And I'll now hand over to Victoria. There are only 2 items. One has been completed. And I'll ask for comments from Victoria on the progress item on the multi-agency coordination centre. So I'll hand it over to you, Victoria. Thank you.
Kia Rick. Thank you through the chair. So just on action item number 2, the report on the multi-agency coordination centre to Northland Forward Together on the 23rd of November. It was postponed at that time. So we'll just work with Malcolm Nicholson, our CE, to rearrange a time when that will be brought through to the next Northland Forward Together meeting.
Thank you. Any questions on those? Right. Anybody against receiving that schedule of actions? Hands up, please. No hands up. We'll take that as passed. I'm now going on to item 5.1 on page 10, the NEMA monthly update. And once again, I'd like to welcome Chloe, but I would like a mover first, please, to receive that report. Thank you, Tony. And Anna seconder. Thank you. Right, welcome Chloe, and we're going to hand it over to you to do your say hello and talk to the report, and then we'll take any questions. So if I could have a little orange hand up, that would be great. Thanks. Thank you, Chloe. All yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So kia ora koutou. My name is Chloe Marshall, and I've taken over from Melinda Meads as the REMA for the Northland CDEM group. We have quite a bit of recruitment going on in the Auckland area for REMAs at the moment. I am the only one standing at this point in time. So we're placing 3 others up here. So there may be some changes in this space in the coming year, but I'll keep you posted. January and February this year have been a really busy start for NEMA, with obviously the time interruption and tsunami, Omicron playing out, and with all of the events that are taking place in the West Coast and elsewhere throughout the country. We've had multiple responses. The NC, or National Coordination Centre, has stood up multiple times. However, none of this is yet to get in the way of our trifecta work that we've got going on. So for those that perhaps aren't completely familiar, the trifecta work we've got is the Regulatory Framework Review Program, which is sort of bringing together 3 key projects which are significantly aligned. We've got the changing of the legislation, so the Civil Defence Act, and the review of the National Civil Defence Emergency Management Plan and Guide, and the development of the National Disaster Resilience Strategy and Roadmap. So yeah, these 3 things have required quite a bit of engagement from the group in recent months, and will continue to throughout this year. At the end of 2022, we should have a lot more clarity around the roles and responsibilities of all agencies and organisations involved in emergency management, including the role of iwi and Māori. So I'd just like to take the opportunity to thank everyone involved in this that has, provided feedback and been engaged in this work in the last few months. We did recently just ask for feedback on the emergency management bill, which, it wasn't formal consultation, but it was feedback and required quite a lot of time for certain personnel. So thank you for that. And I also acknowledge the tight timeframes that have been placed on the groups for this feedback. The minister's timelines, we're all working with those. So thank you, and acknowledge those tight timeframes. Other things going on in NEMA, we recently had the National Emergency Management Development Group meeting last week, and as part of that, the Tsunami Working Group was raised as a key priority in the sector at the moment. I haven't got any updates at this stage on that, but it's definitely been brought back to the forefront, and I hope to see a little bit of movement on that in coming months. Another thing that was raised is that with the new legislation, there is a definite shift away from the wording of civil defence towards emergency management. So it is unlikely that we will see civil defence being used in the new legislation, but instead we will see the replacement of with emergency management. So we'll keep you posted on the implications for branding with this. Another big project that NEMA has on the go is our 24/7 monitoring, alerting and reporting centre. So this is going to take over the NEMA duty system, and we will have essentially a 24/7 awake capability. We'll be sort of looking at monitoring and inputs from GNS, Met Service, CDEM groups and other agencies. On a 24/7 basis to hopefully provide a greater service and situational awareness of potential and emerging risks throughout the country. We do hope to engage with groups before this is stood up, and this is going to be stood up at the end of June. So again, we'll keep you posted on what this is going to look like, but initially there's just a focus on the recruitment for this and getting that team up and running to the current duty capacity, and then they'll focus on what the 24/7 capability can actually bring, and that's where we'll then seek engagement from the groups. So that is my update, and I'm happy to take any questions on any of that or anything else. Thank you.
Thanks, Chloe, and I feel you've addressed all the concerns that I had raised, so that's great, and I do appreciate those. So thank you through our group. I appreciate that, but there may be a couple of others. And I see Anna's hand up, and I'll just take this opportunity to welcome the other. I think we've got all the alternates here today, Kelly, Connor and Colin Kitchen. So thank you guys for attending. It's awesome to have all of the alternates here as well. Thank you. I'll hand it over to you, Anna, for questions.
Just a quick question. In the update, it talks about, regarding the trifecta consultation, that there would be a engagement session with mayors and chief executives before the Māori practitioners engagement on February the 16th. Did that happen? And did you get the feedback that you were looking for? Sorry, I'll be specific. I'm looking to page 12 of our agenda, which is the second page of your report.
Right.
The last paragraph about trifecta does talk about there was going to be an engagement meeting with mayors and chief executives.
So we did get some feedback from, as part of the mayors group meeting. I wasn't a part of that, but the key things that came out of that was that mayors raised concerns around the timeframes for consultation, particularly on top of reform fatigue with all of the other local government reforms going on. Some people expressed that there was not enough information to make informed comments. The proposals to reducing section 17 local functions were not well supported. I unfortunately can't expand on that. And then there was also questions asked about enhancing ambulance services for New Zealand on day-to-day when events happen. That is all of the information I have as to what came out of that hui.
And sorry, could I just check, when you say the mayor's group, who's in that mayor's group?
My understanding is that the invite was sent out to the elected officials for each of the groups, but I might have to confirm that, sorry.
Okay, right, thank you.
Right. Any other questions? Right, and I didn't welcome you, Penny, as NRC Chair, so thank you, and I'll hand it over to you.
Thanks, Rick. Kia ora koutou, everyone. Just to answer Anna's questions here, I was at that meeting and Chloe's given a good summary of what was decided. It was, to be fair to say, that the district councils were a bit more exercised than the chairs, but the invite was to all mayors and chairs, is my understanding, so there were a lot of people there. So I would think that Jason would have got a definite invite, and I'm sorry, I can't remember whether he was able to attend or not.
I haven't had a chance to talk to him. I'm just sort of so that I can go back to him and either tell him what the feedback was or he will already know it. Yeah.
Cool. Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rick.
Thank you. So no further questions. Thank you, Chloe, and thanks again. One of my questions was around branding, and you've definitely answered that. So appreciate you got onto those very quickly and gave us a good summary. So thank you very much. Anybody against receiving this report? No, so we'll take that report as passed. Thank you. I'm now moving on to item 5.2, page 17, Northland CDEM Group Plan Targets and Actions. And I will now hand that. I'll move it for that first, please. I'll move that. Do I have a seconder? Dave, thank you. So Dave has seconded that, Laura, and I'll now hand it over to Graham to speak to that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The targets and actions are taken from the new Civil Defence Group Plan that was approved at the end of last year. The monitoring and evaluation section 10 of the plan, outlines that we should report on the targets and actions to the CDEM group on a regular basis, and that fulfills that requirement. So I'm happy to take any questions around the targets and actions and understand that this is the first time that we've actually reported this table to the group.
Thank you, Graham. I appreciate that. It's a great reporting. I don't have any questions. Are there any other questions? No hands up. So thank you. Anybody against receiving that report? Right, think that is accepted. Thank you. I'm moving on to item 6.1, page 28, Northland CDEM Group, KEG and Group Appointments. I think we can take this paper as read unless there are any questions. Could I have a mover for that paper, please? Cheryl, mihi, thank you. And a seconder? I will second that. Are there any questions on the KEG Group and CDEM appointments, please? Clear.
Can it just be noted that Gemma Aspin from Whangarei District Council and Alistair Wiseman from the Kaipara District Council are no longer in their roles as local welfare managers. They have moved on from their council positions.
Just looking them up now, actually. So you got those ones, Laura? Thank you. Thank you for that, Claire. Anna.
Sorry about that. I'm looking at the local controller for Kaipara, and I can't remember whether I asked this last time or not, so please forgive me if I did and bear with me. The other councils all have 2 or more local controllers, but Kaipara only has 1. Is that an issue that we should be concerned about? If it is there anything being done to address it?
Thank you for the question. Graham or Victoria, do you want to answer that?
Yeah, so we are working through with Kaipara to develop further controllers, and they are in the pipeline to come on board.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions? Anybody against receiving that report? Thank you. I'm now moving on to item 6.2, page 31, KEG Chair's report. I'd like a mover for this, please. I will move that. And a seconder. Dave is seconding. Thank you. Once Victoria has spoken to it, we will open up for questions. If you could just raise your little orange hand, thanks, then it's much easier to see. Thank you. So I'm handing over to Victoria now. Thank you.
Thanks, Rick. So through the chair, it's actually a large report. There's a lot of extensive work that's been carried out over the holiday period in the last 3 months. Because it's so extensive, what I was going to do is by sections, so people can ask questions relevant to the section, rather than waiting right to the end with it being so large. So I'd just like to draw the committee's attention to the activations and response. So I'd like to recognise the continued level of response that was required over the holiday period and thank the team for all their hard work during this time. They've had several emergency responses, plus their usual work programme and contributing to the national work as well. But due to this high level of workload and the ongoing Omicron response, there's a couple of our usual annual programmes which we've have to put on hold for now. So that includes the Youth and Emergency Services Programme and the annual Civil Defence Forum. There's personnel movements and appointments. I'll take questions maybe as we go along then through the chair, if that's okay.
Okay, thank you. And I don't know if your hand is up permanently, Anna, but have you got a question? You have.
I do indeed have a question. It's just wanting to check in with Victoria about how the team are holding up. I mean, that is an extensive amount of work that's been going on, and in very stressful times that we are all experiencing the stress of. How's the team holding up, and is everything okay?
I would say that it's been extremely difficult for the team. There's been a lot of pressure, a lot of work. Obviously, there are things in place that can support through the organisation, but it's still taken its toll on team members as well. So it would be nice if we could have a slightly quieter period for a while. Obviously, there's no promises for that, but yeah, it's been a really difficult time. So they've soldiered on regardless. But yeah, we're giving as much support as we can to the team.
Okay, just thanks to the team for the work they're doing on that, because it is a busy time.
Thank you, Anna. I think we all definitely back you up. Thank you for that comment, and I'm sure we all support that. It is a difficult time. We think in terms of what's coming up in the next 2 weeks, who knows? So it's going to be definitely interesting. Well, hope it's only going to be interesting and not too stressful. So once again, thank you for that for the team, Victoria. I will go on to Dave now for a question, please.
Yeah, it's probably more of a compliment in terms of the commitment and the activation over the Christmas period by towards the Kaimau fire, which is in the throes of winding down now. However, I stand in awe of the effort and the detail that was gone into by members of CDEM in terms of that fire. I was there quite often, and there was always Sarah or Bill were there. Absolutely brilliant. I was thrilled with where it was at and what it was doing, and it was not something that I felt that as governance we needed to interfere in. It was just so well done. and I thank him very much for it. The machine is working well.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you for those comments as well. I'm sure we all support that. It would have been a horrendous few weeks in that really, really hot time as well. Thank you again. Any other questions on? No questions. So anybody against this report?
Oh, shall I carry on, Rick?
Oh, sorry.
No, you're all right. I'm just going to do it page by page and with the
Sure,
questions.
yeah. Sorry, my fault.
Sorry, through the chair. So page 32, personnel
you.
movements and appointments. So we have Claire Nyberg's moved from her welfare specialist role into the tsunami specialist role. So we just wanted to acknowledge Claire's hard work for many years in that welfare space, and we wish her well in a new role, which will be looking at the tsunami inundation response plan for Northland and also leading the upgrade of the Northland tsunami siren network. Tegan Capp recently returned to us from her maternity leave, so we welcome Tegan back to the team, and Laura Exton has recently been appointed to the emergency management specialist role for the Cara district, so we welcome Laura to the team. So over the next few pages of our KEG Chairs report, we've got across the 3 district councils a large amount of community response group work that's been carried out despite the restrictions of COVID and our online connectivity issues we experience in Northland and across the holiday period. So that's pages 33 and 34 and 35. If anybody's got any comments that they would like to make.
So any questions or comments on those? Dave, that's your hand up still, or is that from last time? So can I just clarify, Victoria? So obviously the forum is cancelled, and also no further work on the Youth and Emergency Services program until not 2023.
Yeah, it's been postponed for now. Yeah.
Okay, and I was going to acknowledge Laura and leaving today is her last, well, she's filling in today, I believe, and Nikki is replacing her. But thanks, Laura. Done a great job on keeping me on track. But you missed that last one, though, so I won't forget that. So thank you, everybody. And it's great to get the update on the appointments. Thank you, Victoria. So you're carrying on now?
Yeah, but Anna may have a question through the chair.
Anna, thank you.
Yeah, just a quick welcome to Laura to the Cara District Council, and a quick question just on her travelling around those community response groups. Were there particular issues that stood out, or I'm just interested in getting the feel for how the community is operating.
Yeah, kia ora, Anna. I'm introducing myself to your council on Wednesday, so I'll be able to have a chat with you then as well. But yeah, regarding the community response groups, that's been one of my main focuses, is just introducing myself to everyone so that they know who their new point of contact is if there is an emergency and they need help from civil defence. So that's been the main priority. The meetings that I have been to, they were just really interested in either reviewing their plan or figuring out ways that they can communicate their plan to their community. So new people that are moving into their neighbourhood, how do they get in touch with them, bring them on board, let them know what the process is if for different emergencies. And I think later on in the report, there's a summary about the Waikato fire. But I think that's created a lot of urgency in communities that don't already have plans in place or groups in place. So that's something I'll be working on in the future, is working with those communities to come up with their plans so that they're prepared in an emergency. Yeah, does that answer your question?
Yep. No, that's thank you.
Cool.
So no further questions. We're up to we're actually up to the response, Waikato fire response, aren't we, Victoria?
Yes, thanks, Rick, through the chair. So page 36, Waikato fire response. So Laura supported in her new role, FENS leading that response, and worked with iwi and community during that wildfire response. And Laura attended a hui on Saturday that FENS were holding, and some real positives out of that around training and the community response work and sharing learnings from that response with the iwi as well. So that was a positive outcome for building community resilience in that area. Onto capability development. So we're looking at some online options for March to be able to still deliver the Sims courses. Shona's been working on that. So we'd like to still be able to deliver those in March despite them not being able to go ahead face to face. Moving on to page 37. A national exercise. NEMA are proposing an AF8 exercise, so Alpine Fault 8 national exercise for later on this year. But at the moment, not necessarily much appetite for this from some of the groups with the extra workloads and pressures that they've been under at the moment. The Welfare Coordination Group is keeping up to date with the COVID response, if they need to be activated to support that in any way. And just to draw the committee's attention to the top of page 38 with the Hearts and Minds project that the group have agreed to fund and the progress on that. So there is progress being made. So the 367 social support agencies have been approached and are filling in their contact details that will form the directory. I'll just ask Mai if she's got a question before I move on.
Right.
Thanks, Victoria. Yes, it's just with relation to the Alpine Fault M8, in your report it said that there were people that were keen to participate, but you, in your commentary, you just sort of said, please no, we're all flat out. So just can you give us an update on that? And is there anything that we can do as a group? Because I would imagine that that fatigue that you've already spoken of with the teams is real, and is there some way that we can realistically feedback to say perhaps that could be deferred?
So Shona's actually a member of the National Exercise Governance Group, so she attended that meeting and I think was surprised that some of the groups were enthusiastic about taking part in the AF8 exercise, but they may not have been affected as much as Northland has over the last 3 months with their responses. So yeah, there is some appetite out there, but then those that have been affected heavily by emergency responses recently are a bit more fatigued, like you say. I think as that planning develops and Shona will be in touch with that governance group, we'll have to see what's being proposed and see if we can, what part we might be able to play in that. We'll just keep monitoring the progress of their planning for that.
Any further questions up to page 37? And thank you, mihi, for bringing that up. I think we're all concerned about the stress on the civil defence team. So thank you. So we're on to page 38, are we?
Yep, on page 38. Oh,
sorry, can I just add, you mean the emergency management team? We're not allowed to say civil defence, Rick.
I'll blame Laura for not picking that up. Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, right. Okay. So the Lifelines coordination group. So Tegan's taken over from Demi Exley in supporting the Lifelines group on behalf of the group office. They've got a meeting scheduled for later this week on the 3rd of March. Marry and relationship engagement update. So we did have a welfare planning workshop, which we've had to postpone due to COVID. It's much better to hold those workshops face to face. And so with that being the preference, we're going to postpone that till later in the year to make progress there. So there's still ongoing, as we know, participation with the trifecta and the emergency management bill, and the emergency management office are supporting iwi and Maori in their input into that process as well. Just to make note at the bottom of page 39, some great initiatives and relationships and mihi with agencies, the emergency management professionals from Maori and Pacifica, and community is going ahead still with TPK as well, the Marae and Tinapai, Fire and Emergency New Zealand, Ruai Community Response Group, and Neighbourhood Support. Communications update from Murray. Yep, page 40. So just to note that obviously it's been an exceptionally busy time for Murray. There's been a high demand for communications across these multiple responses, and Murray also took part and travelled up to Kaimomo to support the FENS comms personnel as well over the Christmas period. Murray pointed out that the NEMA has indicated a nationwide test of the emergency mobile alert platform that's been scheduled for May. And also we have our Northland tsunami siren testing at the end of daylight savings on Sunday, the 3rd of April. I'll pause there. Yep.
Right. Thank you. Thanks for the, there is a huge report, Victoria.
I think Anna may have a question. Yeah.
Yes, I'll go to Anna first.
Just more of a comment than a question, just a compliments to Murray on the comms around, particularly around the COVID in Northland. It's been really helpful to have that level of detail and sensible reporting that's come out, and totally understand turning the comments off. That's an entirely appropriate response given the heightened nature of the responses that come through. But yeah, really want to thank him for that work. It's been actually really helpful in dealing with the community and concerns, being able to point them at that.
Thank you. Any further questions for Victoria up to page 40? No, Victoria, you can carry on.
Thank you. So deployments. So Jenny Calder is a member of the National Emergency Management Assistance Team. And so she has written a comprehensive report on her deployment to Greymouth to support the response to the heavy rain event in February. And Jenny's included the learnings that she's got out from that experience. It's great to have our Northland Civil Defence staff involved in the national response team. So Shona Morgan's also on the team. They gain further experience from going on these deployments, and then they bring that experience back to Northland. So that's a real benefit for us. And thank you to Graham as well, who gives them permission to join the team and supports them in that work. So the Kaitaia flood forecast model on page 43 in the report. So the Northern Regional Councils commissioned the development of a flood forecast model for Kaitaia, and it will give our hydrology team more information and time to predict if there is going to be any flooding in the Kaitaia area and any possible emergency evacuation that might be required, which in turn gives the civil defence team more time to respond to that. So that'll be a real good asset and tool for the future. And just, this is not being reported in this item, but at the last coordinating executive group meeting we had before this meeting, we co-opted Snow Tane from Te Roroa as the iwi representative for the Kaipara area onto the KEG as well, which gives 3 iwi representatives now on our coordinating executive group. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. So are there any other questions on the last few pages of Victoria's report? So on behalf of the Emergency Management Group, Nehemiah, I'd like to thank you, Victoria, for it's a very detailed report and some valuable information in there. We've all enjoyed, we enjoyed reading it, and we certainly enjoyed your summary of it as well, and also the participation of all those members who have been around the country and also spent a lot of time at events in the north. So thank you again. I don't think I need to ask for anybody not accepting that report, so thank you. I will now move on to item 6.3, page 44, Northland Water Resilience. And I think we can take this paper as read. And if Graham is prepared to answer any questions on it, we don't have Tony Phipps here, so it will be questions. Tony Phipps is contracted, even though he left the role, he's contracted to finish this. And we know he's pushing away at it. So he definitely wanted to get this one done before he signed off completely from Regional Council. So we thank Tony for his perseverance. So are there any questions on Tony's report, but they'll have to be addressed to Graham or Victoria?
Sorry, Rick, could we please have a mover and seconder?
Yes, just thinking about that. Thank you. I'll move it. Thank you. In a seconder, please, Dave. Thank you. Any questions on that report? Right, thank you, and thanks again. I know Tony's not here, but please pass it on. He's persevered and got that money out, so thank you, Tony. A good thing to finish off in his retirement, actually. So I'm now moving on to item 6.4, page 50, tsunami activity. Before I go any further, I will ask for a mover for this, please. This report on tsunami activity on page 44. Thank you, Anna, and a seconder. Mihi. Now, the tsunami activity report, we will take this report as read, and if anybody would like to ask any questions of Murray, the floor is now open. So are there any questions for Murray on the tsunami activity in Northland following the Alpine volcanic eruption? Right, Mihi. And then Dave, thanks.
Thank you. It's really around, I was looking on page 51 of the agenda, talking about the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 actions, and it speaks specifically about if there is a land and marine threat, NEMA will send an emergency mobile alert to all mobile capable phones. I guess one of the learnings was that for the very few people who were liveaboards in the Tutukaka Marina area, their issue was that they had not received any alert, and we all know, and the report is thorough, and I wholeheartedly support all of the outcomes from it, but it was just one of those things that I wonder whether in future we could look at that separation, because clearly it was a small subset of people. There was no real threat to land, although some people took it upon themselves to evacuate, which was an appropriate response for some. So I just wondered if maybe we can just have a little bit of a discussion around perhaps separating those two things out because of our unique kind of scenario with coastline and land management. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mihi. That's a very good point. Is there anybody else who'd like to comment on that?
Yeah, I will, Tony. Just where I'm at with that is probably my question was very similar to Cheryl's, except taking it a little bit further in terms of information to the public as to what we will be able to warn or notify, or what circumstances are created that we can actually issue some form of warning for the people that live on the boats. They were obviously after the event had been in peril of some description.
Thank you, Dave. And I think it's a very valid point that we always learn from these experiences, and I believe that the team is taking this on board. I got similar comments from people around my area, and I'm sure the rest of the elected representatives got the same thing, that they weren't contacted for whatever reason. So I think we take that on board, and it is trying to be addressed. So thank you. Have you got a question, Kelly? No, flies. Right, Anna.
Yeah, just following on from those past two comments, I wonder if the question is it an issue of us not having the right information? So the information that was coming through from GNS just did not highlight that there was any risk to land or water, or is it a problem of us not having the right systems in place to be able to separate out and identify how that risk is going to impact? I'm just sort of wondering whether we need to sort of drill into that a little bit to understand what needs to be fixed here.
Can I address that question? Can't see Murray there. Victoria, can you have a...
Murray's in the Jenny C box.
Thank you, Jenny C box, right, perfect. Thank you.
Through the chair, look, this is quite a hard one to untangle, and we are but a part in the process. There are other players in amongst it, so the NEMA GNS debrief is underway. The Tutukaka Marina Trust has also embarked on a couple of professional studies as to how they might mitigate the effects that are within the marina. I've unofficially viewed some of the CCTV footage. I wish they would have released it sooner. Their intention is to release it, I understand. But a great deal of the effect that was experienced is created within the Tutukaka Harbour itself. So I know and certainly probably would have shared the experience of people elsewhere in Northland having viewed the, you know, that highly visible impact within Tutukaka, and if I might say, sort of projecting it upon their own situation when in fact it didn't take place. So the information that was available from GNS is included as an appendix at the end of this, and from time to time people are, I guess, perhaps surprised that that's all there is. Clearly, it would be desirable, and some of the work that is taking place as commissioned by the Tutukaka Marina Trust is about understanding what causes that effect and how it can be mitigated. They also have decisions to make around what and how they rebuild there. Going back to the beginning, mihi referred to the very small subset of people that live on board boats within the marina, and I think, yes, they are first and foremost the focus. There were provisions, including the marina manager being on site, having received the information from us. What I think was missing is he firsthand was in a position to view the effects that were taking place. The key area to focus on and to change was how could those effects have been known in advance, and as I mentioned before, the steps that they might now take to mitigate what is to a large part generated, well, almost entirely takes place within the harbour and is generated by the marina entrance itself.
Is there any value, sorry, thank you, Murray, but is there any value in looking at whatever the outcomes of that report are around, are there other places in Northland that could experience similar effects, or is it really specific to Tutukaka? I'm just sort of, yeah, I'm wanting to understand what made it happen in Tutukaka, and is that possible anywhere else?
I think any effects on the right combination of angles are possible elsewhere. Tutukaka does have a long history of more extreme effects than any other place. So the harbour entrance amplifies it, and the marina entrance also amplifies it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, then I think that's the point Murray is making, that it has a long history of that, and it certainly does. And the number of times we've had tsunamis, and that is the area that seems to cop it the worst. So thank you for those questions. Mihi.
I just wanted to, on page 55, you know, it's when you read through lots of reports, the things that stick out are the things that you kind of go, oh, duh, that makes sense. One of it was the relative scarcity of modelling that's now acknowledged around the tsunami generated by volcanic eruptions compared with generated by earthquakes, and the difference between them, and the work that's going on urgently addressed by the international community. That was something that really stood out for me, that again, you know, as I say, was kind of like, oh yeah, that's obvious in hindsight. And I just wonder whether the some future comms, maybe showing that's something that the focus for the work that you're doing with tsunami is that can be highlighted, the difference, and that the work is going on. So it was just something that came through to me that could be a focus for future. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Any comment on that from the combined table there in Jenny's chat? Can't really pick you out, Murray, sorry.
It's probably quite handy, Mr. Chair. Look, I think that once all of the various different strands of work are known, for sure there is a job in tying them all together. Yes, definitely. It's just that we're kind of first up on this one, but yeah, there's definitely the appetite there. The appetite and the will.
Thank you. Thank you for those comments, everybody. Are there any other comments on the report or question?
Yes, please.
Sorry, Kelly.
Kia ora. Thank you. Is there opportunity to work with Tutukaka Marina Trust and access GNS data in future on their behalf?
Yes, definitely. Through the chair, that is taking place now, Councillor Stratford, and ongoingly. There's no lack of goodwill or interaction between us, and I know that Whangarei District Council is represented with a trustee member on the Marina Trust, so I think it's a well integrated relationship. And as I say, the marina manager was there on the night, and you know, his view of the way things unfolded is it worked very well from his perspective. You know, that obviously not shared by everyone, and a thing that I perhaps wish their views had more of an airing to date. And you know, they've got sensitivities with their berth holders, yep. And commercial sensitivities as well, but there's I believe that relationship is strong and productive.
So the EMAs worked really well up at Kaimomo when you know, there was a whole beach full of people across from the fire who bang 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 got these alerts, you know, that there was smoke, and to not panic, there is a fire across there. What do you think that perhaps in future our emergency management strategy would be to, you know, make the call to issue our own EMA?
Through the chair, look, if we had an inkling of what was going to take place, we would certainly have commenced an evacuation of the boats within the marina. How widely you use them at that time of night when there is not an evacuation required, I think is a different story. And as I said at the previous meeting, the instant public reaction to the use of sirens and EMAs on the part of a proportion of the public is they will start moving. It was a rainy night and dark. Would we use an EMA to evacuate 25 people? You know, I think that the knock-on consequences of that, we wouldn't necessarily want to initiate without good reason.
Yeah, thank you. I also just want to commend the staff for the response, because I've had to listen to a lot of negativity around, I didn't know that it was 25, but yeah, that they've raised up a lot of negativity towards emergency management response. And I just, you know, hats off to you guys. I was watching the alert. I myself, you know, was like, oh, if I had a boat there, I'd be tucking up now and going out to sea. But, you know, I think what is prevalent in human beings is they feel they need to be told what to do. Rather, you know, they're waiting for someone to tell them what to do. So, yeah, I think if there's anything that we can hold on to from the learnings, it's personal responsibility. And I guess, you know, it's not just down to the marina management. It's them on the boats. You know, they should be more in tune with what's going on. Kia ora.
Thank you, Kelly. They're good comments and good response. Murray, thank you. I think you've actually outlined the justification for the call you made on the night. So, and we certainly back you in that. And I think when that's explained as you've done it, it makes perfect sense. So thank you for that. I know it's a difficult one. You certainly made the right call. So thank you. Wipare, I believe you've got a question.
Yes, just through the chair. Murray, those new, or Victoria, the new sirens that we're putting in the future, you'll be able to turn them on individually?
Yep, yeah, we will. I didn't know who was going to answer, but yes, we will be able to turn them on individually. So that just gives us that extra tool to be able to use to be really specific in a certain area that might be under some kind of warning. Yep.
Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. Very good question. Thank you. Are there any further questions? And thank you again for the, there were some very interesting questions and some great answers. So thank you. Anybody against that report? No, no hands up. I'm now moving on to 6.5, page 65. Mamu fire response. Now I believe that Sarah, Bill, and Wipare are more than welcome to talk to it. If you'd all like to talk, that's fine. I'd like a mover first, please. Can I have a mover of that? Thank you, Dave, and I will second. So who would like to open up this conversation? Should we hand it to the first person on the list? And that is Sarah, I believe. If you'd like to say something, Sarah.
Just through the chair, just what a great effort FENZ did by leading an awesome, fantastic charge, and actually hats off need to go to the community themselves. They worked really hard to be on board and evacuate in a very short space of time, not only once, but nearly 3 times, and it was over the Christmas period. So we've got really good relationships with the Kaimomo area, as we do with our stakeholders FENZ, and albeit it was an uncomfortable 3 or so weeks, I think that we have come out of it really well, and the community themselves are very grateful for the way that they've been treated by all of us. So it's actually been a successful outcome.
Thank you. It certainly was a difficult 3 weeks in a vast area. So I'm sure the rest of the civil defence will back me when we say fantastic response, fantastic community, and I'm happy to take any other comments. No other comments there.
I'll jump in.
You were there.
I'll jump in. I suppose like there were a couple of issues for us, and if I can just highlight them and the learnings we found out of it. So I'd like to start off with the great effort our volunteers do right across Northland, and in particular in the far north, where we've had numerous wildfire fires running consecutively, and especially in the far north with all those brigades, Kaitaia, Hauhora, all around that area. So just a big shout out to those people. The number of calls that they're experiencing every year is increasing. So just a great commitment from those communities to supply those volunteers, but the commitment of the volunteers themselves. The other thing is COVID fatigue, and that really hammered us during that period. So we'd come out of a period of lockdown, and the difficulties, we couldn't get any accommodation in the town because everybody decided to go on holiday in the far north. So couldn't get any accommodation, couldn't get any shower blocks, couldn't get any portable toilets. Everything was booked out. And so these were just the tip of the iceberg, and let alone people had been working so hard through the whole year that all they wanted to do was to spend time with their families over the Christmas New Year period. So, on Christmas Day and Boxing Day, I had to shut the fire down because I couldn't get anybody. And that was, I suppose we had reduced numbers for the New Year's Day and the next day. So those are some of the learnings, and moving forward, you know, I doubt if this year is going to be any different. If we have a long period of Omicron moving right through the year, people don't go on holiday, so potentially we could end up in the same position. Thank you to the support from you know, the councillors and the mayors in relation to this incident. Your support was really appreciated. When we're doing those community engagement, it's good, you know, it's great to have other leaders there so we can front it as a team. And I suppose, you know, to let you all know that we still have a peat fire there burning, and we're looking for Mother Nature to come and assist us. And we've got 2 other peat fires on the other side of the harbour. Yeah, and I think, I suppose, as Sarah's mentioned, you know, hats off to the community. When you've got a community who switched on, you know, through her great work, bringing that team together, when you push the button and people respond automatically, you know, it makes our job a hell of a lot easier. So, you know, great performance from the different agencies, and for us in Foreign Emergency New Zealand, it was an opportunity to, you know, garner the expertise from right across the country. Don't worry, I'm paying for it at the moment, still working through the bills. Yeah, just thank everybody for their support that are on this meeting today. Cheers, thank you. Any questions?
Thank you. Thanks for that. I'm sure we all support that, and I think Northland, as somebody had mentioned earlier, Northland's had its more than its share of incidents this summer. So let's hope we can get a break and they can all get a break. So that'd be great. Thank you. Dave, you have a question?
Yeah, well, yeah, it's probably, again, more of a statement. I touched on this earlier on in terms of the Kaimau fire, but one of the features that stood out for me was the organisations and stakeholders that worked together so tirelessly, you know, being FENZ leading it with Doc and Ngai Takato, with the Hapu in the region as well, residents, farmers, the whole lot working together. And one of the things that was reported by the recovery group was a first in terms of New Zealand, with these groups of people working, collaborating together for an end result in the safety of the people. Absolutely outstanding, and it's something that's been taken away to be looked at to install in other areas. So congratulations to all of those concerned, right from council as well, and the civil defence, or if we're not allowed to use that, emergency management crew. Great, thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Thanks for those comments, and we'll all support those, as I've mentioned before. It is, it's been an incredibly busy time, and we do hope you get a break. But as we know, we don't know what's around the corner, so let's hope it's a quiet time. Thank you. Do I have any further questions or comments? No further questions or comments? Anybody against receiving this report? Thank you. Now go on to the final item is 6.6, page 68, the Northland Multi-Agency Coordination Centre update. And I know we can take it as read unless Graham would like to make any comments, but I will just have a mover first, please. I will move that. A seconder? Dave. Oh, sure. Mihi is seconding. Thank you. So any comments from you, Graham, on this? Really good to see it going ahead. Thank you.
Yeah, so the report is actually prepared by Mel Tipton, who's the regional property manager for FENZ, who's looking after the project. The geotech work is completed end of last week, and we're expecting a report end of this week. Mel's now working with an architect to come up with some draft design work to be circulated amongst the partners to just work through what the layout looks like. We're just finalising the options going forward in terms of leasing, renting, or the other arrangements for those that will be using the facility.
Thank you. Great to see it moving ahead. Thank you very much. I didn't see his hands up first, but I go to Councillor Curnow. You're on top of my screen. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, just checking in on the numbers side of it. How is it looking along, measuring alongside the proposed budget, and also what sort of contingency are you allowing in that? Because I'm sure my fellow council members will be aware that contingencies are often not enough these days. So is that being properly allowed for?
So as I alluded to, Mel Tipton's the project manager. Mel's got a lot of experience building fire stations between really around the top half of the North Island. He's done a lot of this work. The funding that's available will probably need to be reviewed, as we've seen increases, and we all know about this in building as we go forward through the next 12, 18 months. We'll probably need to come back and revisit that. But Mel's working pretty hard to put together something that aligns with the current budget.
Thank you. We're all looking forward to it. Graham, we're all looking forward to it. Mihi, was that your question answered, was it? Because your hands, thank you. So any further questions? Thank you very much. Anybody against receiving this report? Thank you. That is our final item. I am going to hand over to Laura for the closing Cara Care because she finishes with us today. So I will thank you for looking after myself as the chair and the group over the last few months. Thank you. And thanks everybody else for attending the meeting. It's been some great discussion and awesome reports. Thanks again.
Awesome. Thank you, Rick. Unuhia, unuhia, unuhia ki te uru tapanui, ki o Vātia, ki a Māmā, Tinako, ti tinana, ti wairua I te ara takata. Koia rā I rongo, whakairia ake ki runga. Kia tina, tina, hui tai kere.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks very much.
A long lunch. Great cheering, Rick.
Thank you. Thanks very much, everybody. See you later.
Ka kite.
Ka kite.
Ka kite. Bye.
Yeah.